Sixth
grade, yeah.
Sixth grade?
Yeah.
What is that, 13, 12?
Probably like 11.
11?
Yeah,
Is that what
right
I
around
can't
there.
remember. It was
Right?
25 years ago when I graduated.
I was old.
But at the same time, when you go down, they can still look up to you because now you're like, this is how we get back up.
Yep.
And now let's get into episode 170. What is happening, TwT fans? It is so good to be back on this July 6th, 2023, and I have got a guest here with me. That's right. I got a great podcast for all of you. I got another guest that came on, and I am so pumped for this. But I have to start off the way I always do by saying thank you. Thank you to all my subscribers, and thank you to the new subscribers, all right? Keep sharing, promoting. Give a thumbs up, especially for all the guest episodes, and because that's what keeps the guests coming on, all right? You give them a thumbs up, they want to come back, and I can't wait to have more people on, and I can't wait to have reoccurring guests later this year. But thank you all so much for all your support. I greatly appreciate it. You're what keeps me coming back here week after week. If you're new to the podcast, that's right, you just stopping by, maybe somebody sent you the Linktree link to check it out, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's free for you. This thing is not free to do, so hit that subscribe button. It's the one thing I'm asking everybody to do. If you want to be a guest, or maybe you want to tell your story, super simple. The official email of the podcast is talkinwithtopher@gmail.com. That's talkinwithtopher@gmail.com. Go ahead and send your email out. You can type it, send an audio or a video. Just keep the audio video under 60 seconds and make sure you send that over to talkinwithtopher@gmail.com. This video and every video, all links are in the description below the video. You're going to want to go click the Linktree link. Yeah, it's going to give you access to everything TwT, all my social media, all the platforms that this is on, and of course, everything that you hear on this podcast today. All links are in the description, so go and give Matt a follow and on his Instagram, on his Facebook, and of course, go and check out Smitty's Wrestling Barn. You're going to want to check this out. It's a great establishment, and you can find those links in the description below the video, so go follow and check out the barn. All right, everybody? So like I said, I have a guest for you. And I'm super pumped for it. So instead of me rambling on and on and on and on the way I always do, let's get into today's episode with my guest, Matt Smith. All right, what's happening, everybody? We are here, and I am here with Matt. All right, Matt Smith from Smitty's Barn, and please plug and promote anything you want.
Yeah, I mean, I work at Smitty's Barn. I've run that since 2008. My dad kind of started it when I was a kid. It's grown into a wrestling business that, has really been awesome. I mean, we have kids from all over New England coming down to train with us, and I get to do what I love every single day. It's fun.
That's awesome. Where is it located?
It's located in Kingston, New Hampshire.
Oh, okay. All right. Is that the picture of the barn that you purchased that I saw, the house or something that you purchased?
Nope. So I own a house about like 5 minutes down the road in Kingston. But the gym is in a mini mall now. It used to be at my dad's house.
Oh, really?
And then we sold that and moved, kind of needed to do my own thing. It was amazing, working with my dad all those years, but you got to step out of the comfort zone, be on your own, and do your own thing at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been doing this for how long now?
Yeah, I mean, my dad had me run it when I was in college, and And then I kind of like moved it into, you know, doing it every day when I got out, and I kind of ran it, you know, every single day. And I got into like mixed martial arts then. So it was a good, like, I'm wrestling every day, running the gym, but also I was able to train, and the wrestling was obviously helping my fighting career. So that's kind of how it started.
Really, really.
Yeah.
So when you were younger, and was your dad doing this on his own when you were a kid?
No. So I lived with my mom growing up, and my dad, you know, worked at a lumber yard. So we were just, you know, blue collar working, you know, family with my dad. You know, they were separated, but like they both worked a ton, you know, so it was like that kind of grind. But in sixth grade, I never really played any sports, but I grew up in a trailer park. So I was always that like scrappy football player, scrappy, you know, backyard baseball player. So it was like, I was always like really athletic, but I never really played any sports. And then in sixth grade, my uncle wrestled, my dad wrestled. So it was like a good transition to go to my mom with, you know, I want to give this thing a shot. And,
Really?
you know, so it was,
So you gave it a shot around
sixth
years?
grade, yeah.
Sixth grade?
Yeah.
What is that, 13, 12?
Probably like 11.
11?
Yeah,
Is that what
right
I
around
can't
there.
remember. It was
Right?
25 years ago when I graduated.
I was
so.
older too, so that kind of helped. You know, so when I started, I was probably 11 or 12, right around there.
So so when you start getting into wrestling in sixth grade, and your uncle and your father are already wrestlers, is that what kind of sparked his interest in starting his own wrestling like school?
No, we were willing to do whatever it took. Once like I decided to wrestle, my dad, I remember I went 0-4 at like this dual meet, and I was pretty natural. Like in the wrestling room, I was beating kids on my team. I was, you know, I was probably one of the better kids on the wrestling team, you know, starting off right off the bat, but I wasn't winning in the matches. And I remember crying in the hallway. My dad came up to me and said, you know, there's one way that you can change this, and it's called hard work, and we can get back to work. And he goes, if you never want this to happen again, we start today. But I don't want to hear you complaining. I don't want to hear you, you know, I don't want to get up Sunday morning, you know. So he was very like, you choose what you want, but we're gonna do it for real, and I don't do things halfway. And that's the type of way my dad is. He's
awesome.
a very like get after it guy. It's either 100 or, you know, or nothing. You know, he likes to get after it. He's not just gonna do something to do it. You know, when he did like the marathon and stuff, it's like he goes for the Boston Marathon. He doesn't try to, you know, qualify for something easy. And it's just like, that's the type of guy he was. It's like, he always went at things hard. So when he said that day, I looked at him and I said, I never want to lose again.
Really?
And then the rest was history. It was like, let's get training. And the next day was get after it. And I was always wanted it anyway. I remember losing some matches and stuff. And, you know, I'd get home. Most kids would be, you know, either sulking or hanging out with their family. Like I came home and jumped rope outside in the snow. It's just like, you know, whatever it took to, you know, get to that level. I hated losing more than I liked winning. That was the thing. It was like that like just fear of like having to like let people down or let myself down or lose in front of people. I hated that, you know. I think it was a trailer park and you finally had something good going for you, you know.
Yeah,
never played any sports. I wasn't really great in school. So it was like, this is something that I'm getting praised for. Girls are starting to like me. This is kind of fun. Like I can do this.
So as you're doing this and you're doing all this training, like when did the corner turn for you and you started like, because I've heard that you've won multiple gold medals and you're like a world-class wrestler.
I think it was like right away. Like
right away?
Right away in the practice room, we knew there was something. I mean,
really?
I didn't know. I just wanted to train. I just wanted to get better. But my dad, my coaches, they all like kind of saw something in me. You know, me, it was just like whatever it took to train, any way necessary. My dad said jump, I just did it. I didn't ask any questions. I just, whatever he wanted to do, he wanted to lift, he wanted to run, you know, we'd be down for it and just get after it. So it was like kind of one of those things. It was just like I was willing to do whatever, and he was willing to get after it and make it happen.
Really? That's so amazing. So like when you're doing this, when you're winning those medals, what were the competitions that you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, my first year of wrestling, I went to the middle school nationals. My dad, I remember going through the year, and I'm like, I won a tournament, and it's like, oh, this is a qualifier for nationals. But that's just like their ploy to get you to go and spend the money. And
Right.
so I was like, Dad, I want to go. I qualified. You know, he's like, you won, you know, this tournament. It's not very big. You win the New Englands, we'll talk. And I had lost in the state final. So winning the New Englands was like probably not going to happen.
Oh, really?
But the kid that beat me in the state final missed weight. So then he bumped up. He ended up winning the New England's the weight class above me, and then I won the weight class below. So then I looked at my dad and was like, we're going to nationals. You promised me if I won New England's. So then we went, ended up placing 6th. So my first year of wrestling, I was an All-American. So it was like.
Well, so you were still in 6th grade?
That was 6th grade, yeah.
Shut
6th
the
grade,
fuck
I
up.
was an All-American, so my first year of
Whoa.
wrestling, yeah. So it happened pretty quick that we knew we had something pretty good, that I was pretty natural at it. So we were,
Oh, wow.
whatever it took.
That's absolutely incredible. So you're like, so when you won the other 3, like, because it's 4 gold medals, right? Because like I've always heard from Professor Tim that you multiple medals.
I won a lot in high school. Like once I got,
skill.
so I was a 3-time All-American in youth wrestling. I never won the national title. Then I got to high school, and I was a 4-time New England champ. So there's been 2 people in the history of New England wrestling, whenever they started that, I would say probably in like the 50s or so, 40s, you know, whatever it is it's been around for a long time. They've had the New England championships, and there's been 2 of us that have won 4 of them.
Really?
Yeah, so there was a guy in the 80s, actually Dan Smith, so it's kind of funny, but we're not related at all. And then me, I won it in 2002.
In 2002.
Yep.
Okay. And then your dad started the barn when?
He started that probably like right around my sophomore year, I think. So we were moving out of Haverhill because he paid for me to go to Timberlane. So it was kind of like I was moving to my dad's house. I struggled academically at Exeter, and I didn't really want to go to Haverhill. Haverhill back then was, you know, not a great school to go to. They're doing a lot better job now.
Yeah.
They were starting to be like not accredited, those type of things. So when I was moving into my dad's house in 8th grade, it was like, you know, really don't want to go to Haverhill. I loved Exeter.
Yeah.
So it was like, I really didn't want to leave there. So moving to my dad's, what was his way? You know, he was like, let's go to Timberland, one of the better teams. We live right down the street. So we bought some property in the town, and we started building the house. But we actually built my wrestling gym first. So our house was second. We built the gym first because that was like what my dad thought was more important.
Right.
So we sold our house, and we were living at my stepmother's parents' house, and we built the gym first because he was like, we want to train first.
Right. Yeah. Let's get training settled, and then
Yeah.
we'll figure out.
Then we'll figure out the house.
Yeah. We'll figure out the house. That makes total sense to me. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're doing all this. You got the barn going on, and then you take it over as you get older. Is your dad involved in it at all?
Yeah,
anymore?
he was, me and him kind of coached together for a long time. I kind of, once I stepped out of college, I kind of ran the show, and he was kind of like, you know, did all the paperwork, did all the collections, did all that type of stuff. And, you know, he would just come to the practices. I kind of like run the show, teach the techniques. You know, I wrestled D1 for a little bit and then wrestled D3. So I was the one that, you know, was going to all these camps, learning all these moves, and I'd come back, you know, teach it to the room and then help everyone out. So it was fun though. But my dad, he was a great coach too. He knew how to get the best out of everyone. That was what he was the best at. He could talk anyone into scrapping hard and working hard. And after the practice, you'd be having fun. You'd be like, whoa, I just lost 8 pounds. Like, how did that even happen?
Right.
You know, he was great at that. So we worked awesome together those first like 4 or 5 years that we coached together. It was like an unstoppable team.
That's awesome. That's so cool, man. It amazes me because that is such hard work.
Yeah.
That is hard fucking work. Like every time I'm on the mats with anybody, and as soon as you find out that they've wrestled, you can always feel them. Like I even going against you in class, it's like it's so natural for you for the grabbing and the head and arm chokes and certain things. Like, you know, Cam said the other day, it's not second nature, it's first nature.
Yeah.
Which is so fucking funny to say. But it's just like what has your like, you've been in the martial arts, like you've been wrestling, and I'm not saying that you did mixed martial arts, but you've dealt with martial arts in general.
No, I did mixed martial arts. I
you
fought
did?
for a long time. Yeah, I actually fought.
Oh, I apologize. You actually did MMA?
Yep, for Tim. Yeah.
Oh,
when
Jesus
Tim
Christ.
and Kevin were together, I was on the team, so it was like me, Justin Holmesy, John Benoit, Dan Bonnell, like we were.
Oh my God.
Chris Grand Mason. We were a solid crew, and then we had a lot of other guys, Woody Weatherby, and you know, other guys like that were coming in. Rick Hahn kind of came like a little bit later, so when he was in Bellator and like the kind of last couple of fights, we were kind of finishing up. So we were kind of like in a transition where we were slowing down, and he was just like kind of killing it.
Really?
Which is
I
crazy.
had no idea. I love finding little things out like this. I had no idea. Really?
Yeah. So I like fought probably, I think like 11 times or so, something like that. It was like 8-3 or
Really?
9-3.
And were you Bellator as well?
No, it was for me back then when we fought, there was not a lot of opportunities for lightweights.
Yeah.
So like my first couple fights were at 155. I don't even weigh 155. I'm like 152 even right now. You know, back then I was like 144. So it was like hard to find fights that were, you know, my weight class. So I fought a lot at 135 when we could get guys, but I bounced anywhere between, you know, 130 and 160. I remember one time I had a fight, supposed to fight at 125, and I was cutting down. I was down to 130, and then they called me the day before the fight, and they're like, "Oh, that kid couldn't make it. Can you fight at 45?" And it's like, oh my God, I'm like 10 pounds under. So it's like, you know, you got to gain weight, eat up.
Really?
Yeah, but you know, that's the name of the game back then. It was fun though. We had a great time.
Now, I always ask everybody about the weight cuts and stuff like that, and you know, everybody says that getting to the scale is like the worst part of it.
Yeah.
But what I've talked to most people about is weight cutting.
Yeah.
What is it like trying to put on the fucking weight? Are you like stuffing your face until you can't friggin' stuff any more food into you? Is that
I've
more
never had to
uncomfortable?
be a weight gainer. Being a smaller guy, typically you cut weight. Like when you're bigger, like when you're like 185, it's easier to get up to like, you know, heavyweight or one of those because you're quicker, you're faster. Where like our weights, you move up from 135 to 155. Yeah, it might be a little bit slower, but not that much. And those guys are coming from like 180. So you really don't want to play around with bouncing around in those lighter weights because it can get pretty challenging. So, you know, you got to kind of cut a little bit and find that like sweet spot where you're not cutting crazy, but you're cutting a good amount.
No shit. Yeah, because I went from 135 and now I'm up to 162 in the last couple months, and I've noticed that like my cardio is dwindled a little bit.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, why is this so hard for me now? And I was like, oh yeah, you stupid. You added 30 pounds to your body.
Yep.
Now your body's trying to figure out what to do with it. But it's like I've always heard more about weight cutting instead of having to put on weight to make a fight or, you know.
Most of the time, I would say most of our country, you know, is a little bit out of shape. So we could all,
we could all use a weight cut.
Yeah, even me, like I'm pretty fit. I wrestle every day, you know.
Yeah.
I'm always training. Yeah, I mean, I'm running the gym, so yeah, I have to.
You have to, right.
But yeah, it's way, I could even lose some weight. So it's like, you know, it's just easier to go down if you want to put yourself in the best opportunity to win. And I don't know about you, but like walking in a cage in front of thousands of people, I want to try to put myself in the best situation to win.
Of course.
Because I've wrestled and, you know, you're in front of people, you're in front of a crowd or whatever, but like MMA, like you're the show. You're right there. It's like getting pinned in a wrestling match certainly is horrible, but getting knocked out in a fight, that's like, you know, I don't want to ever get knocked out in front of my family or my friends or my wrestlers, you know, those little kids that look up to you. You got to like let them down. I think that, you know, starts being the tougher part is like Not letting yourself down, more like letting other people down. You're like afraid to lose in front of other people. Like, you know, so
Yeah,
it's hard to keep that. You got to keep that motivation for yourself, but it's hard at times.
Is that because everybody's working, you got a team working so hard to get you to where you feel
I think
it's a little bit
not more
pressure?
your team. Like, I think like letting Tim down would be hard, but I think like letting like, you know, let's say like, you know, one of my wrestlers like Lucas, like, you know, he's a 7th grader, looks up to me as like I'm this king, and like to see me get knocked out in a fight, like that would be like devastating for him, and like more devastating for me to like let him down. It's like,
Right.
I don't want to let
at
him
the
look
same
like that
time,
in
do
front of
you
him.
not look at that as like a good lesson to be
No, it
learned
is,
as well?
yeah.
You know,
that's true.
because to go off of Professor Tim,
Yeah.
he always says if you're not getting tapped in class, you're not training correctly. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So it makes me feel better when I hear something like that, because I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I was training correctly today because I got tapped all day.
Yep.
You know, all class, I get tapped. But it's just like one of those things where like, yeah, you don't want to let them down, but at the same time, when you go down, they can still look up to you because now you're like, this is how we get back up.
Yep.
All right. That was a lesson learned. It wasn't me losing. I did lose, but it was a lesson learned. We're going to get back up and we're going right back into it. And we're going to do it again. And that shows them, I think, strength,
Yeah.
right? Determination, discipline. And you didn't, it's not like you got knocked out and you gave up.
No,
that would be
for sure.
that would be the bad way to do things. You know what I mean? So I win or lose, you know, always want to win. We all want to win. I don't know anybody who doesn't want to win.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I've never met anybody that's like, no, I can't wait to lose.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good lesson to be learned, young, old. I mean, I started learning this more and more and more with my jiu-jitsu. You know, being 9 years in, it's just, it's part of it.
Yeah.
You're gonna have it, and it's not always just losing. It's the learning when you lose.
Yeah.
You know, you okay, this happened. Don't let it happen again. We move on from this and we do better, and then you get the more wins. But you're always gonna have those loses. But yeah, that pressure must be so much sometimes.
Yeah, you know, it's definitely challenging. Like, I have 200 students at my gym, so it's like I'm not just letting down one, you're letting down a lot. So there's a lot of people out there that are, you know, but there's a lot that are hoping that I lose too. So it's like I kind of look at that too. It's like you got a lot of motivations.
Right.
It's fun,
Right,
you know,
right.
but it's definitely a challenge to get out there. I think that's what like holds some of us back is, you know, sometimes those like fears of like going out there and letting people down is tough. That's definitely a thought in my head as I get older, you know. It's like, oh, you don't have it as much anymore. I'm definitely slowing down at times, but
Oh man, I don't know about that, bro. I've clapped hands with you a few times, and I'm like, woo, that was fun. But man, it was a rough ride for me. So that's it. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible, all of that stuff, because I find the wrestling with a wrestler's base and what you guys go through in wrestling in general is just, it's so much. It's a lot, and that's an amazing base to have when you get into jiu-jitsu. So when you were doing MMA and stuff, did you probably work some no-gi and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah, of course.
I would say more back in my MMA days, like, you know, back when I used to fight. I think my last fight was like 2009-ish or so. Then I did a lot more, like no-gi and the stand-up. Now it's like, you know, I'm kind of getting back into it for the first time in 10 years, you know.
That's where I was getting at. So, like, when you were doing all the MMA and that stuff, like, now you've transitioned into the gi.
Yep.
And you're back on the mats doing just like straight jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? And how is that transition for you been? Like,
I mean, for me, like wrestling and jiu-jitsu have a lot in common. You know, I am a mat wrestler in wrestling and straight wrestling, you know, so like where I'm solid at takedowns, I'm solid at defense, but like if I get on top of you, like that was always like my game in wrestling. And I'm pretty solid on bottom. So, like, when it transitioned to jiu-jitsu, which is, like, mostly on the mat, like, it was a lot easier for me. It's like, oh, I get to get a hold of you. We're just starting down here. Or, you know, like, you want to sit on your butt and take me into the ground. Like, that's just a lot easier for me, you know. Whereas, like, I'm not I'm solid at takedowns, but I'm definitely better at grappling. Like I'm better when I get a hold of you. I'm better when I get on top of you, or or even on bottom where I can kind of scramble.
Oh,
That's
really?
where I was my best. My takedowns were definitely good, but they weren't my best.
Oh, that's so amazing. So it's almost an easy transition for you, because one thing I've excuse me, one thing I've noticed with wrestlers throughout my 9 years of being there is that some of them, I mean, they just progress like crazy once they start grasping how we do things, and they get away from going, being afraid of being on their back and other things like that you don't want to do when you're in wrestling. Once they let go of that, they just become these monsters, because they have the wrestling base, they got the scrambles, and now they can grab you and choke you all over the place. But I've also seen where a wrestler will come in and they get super, super frustrated, and then they quit because they get frustrated with the things that they want to do, and now they're being told, well, you don't want to do it like that because this is going to put you in a vulnerable position. So you want to do this, and some of them have had a hard time transitioning. So,
yeah, I don't think I had a very hard time transitioning. It was always like kind of natural for me with that mat wrestling. But I think like as I get older, it gets a little bit easier. It's like you don't want to take everything you learned in wrestling and apply it to jiu-jitsu. You want to take smaller things, and I think that's what people need to realize. Like jiu-jitsu and wrestling are two different sports. Basketball and wrestling are two different sports, but you can take certain things out of both sports and use them in the other. The mental toughness of wrestling, like that grit, that grind, you can use that in basketball or jiu-jitsu or whatever sport you play. It's just, about taking the things that you learn. And wrestling's such a challenging sport to think of, those days cutting weight and the things you go through, and, missing your family. And, it's just, football teams have pasta dinners, and we would die for a pasta dinner, so it's just like crazy to like think of like the things you go through. And
that's funny.
And I think that's what makes like a wrestling team so close together and makes it like such a crazy sport. But yeah, you just got to take those small things out of it with wrestling, but it definitely gives you a good base for jiu-jitsu, but it's not everything.
Right.
And I think like what you're seeing too is like the takedowns are huge, and we don't start a lot on our feet in jiu-jitsu. You get a lot more starting on your butt. It would help those wrestlers that are coming into it new. They started on their feet because then they'd see, some success rather than just getting tapped out. They'd get a couple takedowns before they get tapped out. Like, hey, I'm right there. I'm scoring, but I'm just losing the battle.
I see.
That's where maybe it could help those type of kids, but, you got to be mentally tough if you want to make it in any sport. So if they're quitting and it's not for them, I think you got to give things, at least a few more goes and give it some time to like see if it, turns into something. It's like lifting weights. You want it to happen that day. I need to get bigger. It's like, no, it takes time.
I wish.
You got to grind. Yeah. It's like, I've been lifting for a year straight, and I'm like, God, still tiny.
Still tiny, dude. I feel the same way. I'm like, man, I wish. Why won't this just happen?
Yeah.
I can usually just shed the weight and it's gone, and it's like, man, putting it on, keeping it on, and then bulking it out. You're like, this is so much work. Yep. It's so hard to do.
And then I got kids in my gym that are just naturally like jacked out of their minds.
Right.
And you're like, you don't lift at all. Like, wait till you get to college and wrestle D1. You're so jacked. You're going to be even bigger. Like, that's just scary.
Crazy, right? Yeah. See, I don't know about some of the genetics today. They are pretty insane. But so that's it all blows my mind, right? Because like the wrestling and the feel and now the jiu-jitsu and everything else, it's just so incredible. So just real quick, how long has you said your dad started it and you're still running it? So how many years has it been there?
I mean, we kind of built it in 97, but it didn't really turn into anything. It was kind of like small thing until I got out of college, which was like 2007, 2008. That's when like it really started to explode, and it was like growing a lot.
Oh, really?
And we were like, okay, now we can start, because we didn't charge people for the first, like, I don't know, like 8 years or so. Like my dad was just kind of like training. He just loves it. Like, it was in our blood, So he just let people come for a while. Then we were doing it as like fundraisers to, give people opportunities. Now it's kind of turned into, now a business, and now I'm able to wrestle for a living, which is amazing.
Fucking awesome, dude. That's fucking awesome. So other things going on with you. I'm hoping I remember this correctly, but you said that you a lot of the things that I like to get into, and I kind of run back and forth in my head, so I apologize. But I like to talk about the strengths that we all have, and I also like to talk about the weaknesses that we have. And for me, it was alcohol. And if I'm not mistaken, yours was also alcohol.
Yeah.
For
Wouldn't really call anything a weakness. Or all just learning experiences.
I guess
right?
Yeah,
like, because, like, did that thing that wasn't that great in your life that's, like, you say is that, but it's, like, it molded you into the stronger. Like, I look at alcohol and the way it affected me to, like, where I am now. Like, yeah, it was a 20-year battle with it. But now it's, like, the best day of my life. Like, I look at life in a different way. If I didn't have it so strong, it's like, would I have, like, really come out of it on this side? And, like, I don't think, like, people, like, ask me, like, all the time, like, how good do you feel after 20 years of, I drank pretty hard. After 20 years of drinking, like, do you feel, like, physically better? I'm like, well, I probably was masking a lot of those injuries with some alcohol. I think that was I remember hurting my neck pretty bad and drinking and, freaking out about, like, surgeries. And I'd never had insurance as a kid. So it was just like, in my 20s, I never got insurance. So I was always like, oh, I hope I don't get hurt, even though I'm a wrestling coach every day. This is stupid. But, we live and learn as a kid. But, yeah, no, drinking was, like, a huge issue for me, but it's like the mental part that came out of it and how much better I feel about myself and how I look at my life different, and just even people in general. It's just, I'm just so happy that I went through this battle, that I can maybe, like, help a few people. And I'm around a lot of kids, so it's like, if I can just help a few that are struggling the way I struggled and get them to not feel the way I felt, because it was crazy. I had my gym. I was graduating college last summer. I had just graduated in June, and I couldn't stop drinking. It was like every waking moment that wasn't around wrestling was like, okay, crack a beer now. Oh, take a nip here. Oh, I'm the one going to the bar. It's like meeting friends. It's like, oh, wait, 3 nips before I get there, So it's like, it was exhausting, and it was just like so much all the time. It never, like, was getting in the way of wrestling till the last year, where it was like, okay, now I started skipping practices. Okay, now I'm, like, trying to avoid going to a tournament because I'd rather just sit at home and drink. To the end, it was a lot of drinking alone, because I was embarrassed about the way I drank, so it was like, yeah, I'd go out with friends, but I'd bail early or whatever I could to get away so I could drink the way I wanted to drink.
Yep, and I know that feeling.
Yeah, it was miserable. It was miserable for the last few years.
And so how long have you been off of alcohol?
So 10 months. 10 months.
10 months.
I've been 10 months sober. I went to rehab last August. I was August 17th. I was sitting there drunk. My friends came and talked to me. It was my wife and my friend Colin, who coaches with me at the gym. He went through the same kind of process. So he reached out to his friends, got me in a great rehab program, and kind of, like, walked into my house with, like, hey, let's try this. And I had, like, for a year and a half, talked to him about it because I knew he went through it. And I was like, it was funny because, like, he's in his 30s, younger 30s, and I'm almost 40 now. And I coached him, so he looks up to me. And for me, him being sober and all that stuff, I look up to him. And it's like, it's a bizarre thing. And now it's, like, cool that, like, we're both kind of sober together. And he kind of, like, started my journey, sponsored me. He was the call that I always called every night, when I was, struggling through rehab, because that first, like, 4 or 5 days, week, it was the hardest challenge I ever had. I left my family, left my gym, moved into a house, went to detox first, which I didn't need to go to detox. I was
just about to ask you.
I wasn't having any DTs or anything like that. I never have. I've obviously have, like, a hard weekend to drink, and you wake up that Monday morning with, like, oh, like a beer would probably save this, but I'll just tough through it, get to wrestling practice, sweat it out, you know? So I was always that, but, you know, it definitely got in the way all the time. And it just was, it was exhausting by the end. But yeah, going to rehab was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was a challenge and it was scary, but it was so worth it. I made great friends. I learned so much. I remember my first day being at rehab and talking to the guy running the first class, and I walked in and my jaw was on the ground because I just never expected that. Like, he knew exactly how I felt. Everything he said about the first step in the AA book was like just directly to me. The you know, the rid that I had, and the, you know, those days of like when I stopped drinking, and I thought that would never go away, where I would think about drinking. And you know, I'm 10 months in, and it's like finally, like, I don't think about it all the time. And when I get to the weekend, I'm not like, oh yes, I get to have a beer, or oh yes, I get to drink, even though I had drank all week and I'm excited for the weekend to drink. It was weird. You know, it was like, yes, the weekend, can finally drink. Wait, you drank last night, you idiot. Like,
right,
like
right.
Your wife fell asleep, and, you know, so
Yeah.
one of those things. But, you know, it feels good to like not want to drink finally.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
that's like my favorite part about it. That and the mental.
Yes.
I'm not depressed anymore. I'm not like sad about my life, because my life was amazing. I had a gym. I had, you know, I just graduated college with a special ed degree. Like, everything was going right, but like in my head, everything was just like depressing and sad, and I hated my life, and I felt like everyone was against me, even though it wasn't like that. It was like my own like imperfections, like just working against me. And
yeah. Yeah, you start to realize that the people that you thought were against you were actually rooting for you.
Yep.
They were pushing for you to do better, and they kept pushing for you to do better, and you just weren't. Because you were like, because I remember cutting off friends. You know, it was like I had friends that just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm just going to avoid you completely.
Yep.
That way I can drink the way I want to drink and do what I want to do, and I don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z, and I don't have to hear you say anything anymore. And just going through all of that, you know, you really start to realize who is behind you the entire time.
Yep.
But you got to get through all of that to get clear to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, you just keep playing this game with yourself that like everything's out to get you. Now, for me, when I finally got off of alcohol, because I'm more of a California sober, I still like to microdose mushrooms. I still like to smoke pot. None of that stuff ever ruined my life. No. Alcohol is the only thing that ruined my life over and over again. So that's why I always say that I stay away from alcohol, and that's it right now. I never really got into hard drugs or anything else, and I wouldn't at all today, because it's way too dangerous out there with this fentanyl bullshit. But what was the awakening moment, in a sense? Like, what finally happened? And for most people, I'll be honest, it's never really that exciting of a story. I think more of the exciting stories are when you're fucking obliviated and you're doing stupid shit.
Yep.
Like when I went and fired my gun off in public. That was my biggest moment. Yeah. You know, I took my 40 cal, my ex-girlfriend's chasing me in her car. I'm on a bicycle. I told her to back off, and I fucking pulled the damn thing out of my backpack and popped two off on Borough Road. I think it's Borough Road in Pennacook.
Yep.
And I watched every fucking head at the gas station way out in the distance. Everybody swiveled their head when they heard that fucking thing go off.
I bet.
And I will tell you right now, I still get excited when I say I did it. I can't help it. I don't know why it excites me, but it excites me every time I talk about it, because I didn't hurt anybody. Nobody died. Luckily, things went okay, but the SWAT team that came in after, holy fucking shit. But the story that leads me up to getting sober, super boring.
Yeah, I think the stories like of our alcoholism and all the crazy stuff we've done or been a part of, like, they either like we chase those moments or we run from them. But either way, we're drinking to avoid it or be a part of it. Like we, you know, I just want to drink to be able to do these things. Yeah. But I'm never doing those things. That was me. It was like, but I want to be able to go out with like these guys, to drink and do that, to go out at wrestling tournaments and have a couple beers with the parents, and it was like, that's never what it turned into.
No.
It was always
never.
just get wasted and like either be carried home from the bar,
Right.
or I was in my room so that I could just, I'm
Pass
already
out.
laying in the bed, so I might just
dude.
fall asleep, you know? So that was always me. But yeah, it was those stories. You either run from them or you want them around you, you know? It's like, but either way, I'm drinking, you know, because if I did something shitty that night, I'm drinking the next day to forget about it. If I did something awesome, I want to recreate it. So it's like everything was always an excuse for me to drink, whether the UFC was on Wednesday or, you know, there's Thursday night football or there's Monday night football. It's like I already kind of got like 3 days, like, and then the weekend. It's like, what days aren't I drinking? It's like,
exactly.
you know, for me,
every day that ends in Y.
Yeah. But I went out with the coaches last night so I could have one beer, then I smell like booze so I could come home and have more. You know, there's always something for me.
Yeah.
It was always any way to get more. You know, that was the way that like kind of set me down that bad path.
Right. But so there was like for when I finally quit, I was Ubering.
Yep.
And my rule for Ubering was after 10, because after 10, I'm just picking up drunks.
Yeah.
So no one can tell. So why not have a nip every hour?
Yeah.
So I set, and I would stick to a nip to about every half an hour.
Yeah.
Because, of course, that hour is too long to wait. And then I was in Southie, and I had a passenger, and it was just, like I went through the light, and I remember seeing red. And I went, oh, shit. And all of a sudden I see blues. And I'm like, motherfucker, I don't know what to tell. I didn't know what to tell this person that's sitting in my car that I'm Ubering home. And I get pulled over, and he comes up, and I give him all my shit, and he comes back, and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, Ubering, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I was super, super fucking nervous. He comes back, and he goes, I'm going to let you off with a warning. Oof. I was like, what? I fucking took that. Thank you. Drove that person home, shut off my fucking Uber, went home, drank everything that I had, woke up the next day and never touched another fucking drop.
Nice.
That's what ended it for me. I was like, I was on the verge of another fucking complete, everything being destroyed.
Yep.
Losing my license again and all this other fucking shit. And I had just basically gotten back my license in 2011 when I lost it in 2005.
Yep.
So I lost it in 5, got it back in 11.
Yeah. I think for me, definitely getting in trouble was definitely never enough. No, it was never enough for me. Mine was just, I just was sick of those depressed feelings. I had gone through it for about a year and a half where I would just, you know, be super sad and, you know, just didn't want to run my gym anymore, which was like crazy to think of. And it was like just a lot of things were just like, that made me happy weren't making me happy anymore. And it's like my friend just kind of came to me that day where I was like really drunk, and I think that probably helped him talk me into it. It was just like, go to rehab, give it a shot, like just one day. Just, if you go for one day and you don't like it, come home, I'll come pick you up. I remember being like, all right, give me 3 nips and I'll go. And we went and got 3 nips, and then I went and we went in there, and I was just like so nervous. But I mean, that first class was like the eye opener. There were obviously some God shot moments that happened, you know, while I was there, which I don't really believed in. I didn't really believe in God before then, but there were just some moments that happened where it was like, if there is a God, he was definitely telling me to stop drinking, because some of these moments were unbelievable. Just, you know, sitting in detox and meeting someone that knows wrestling, and he's like, you know this wrestler? And I'm like, yeah. Oh. And while we're sitting on the couch, like wrapping up, you know, day 2, his mom died of like a drinking overdose. And it was like, holy, like, how does that happen while I'm in detox, meeting this guy for the first time who I don't know?
Oh my God.
And just, we have someone in common that ends up passing away. And then it was just, you know, one thing after another of those type of things, and all the trouble I get myself into. You know, I think what kills me the most is like when I'm drunk and I do the things that I would do, those were never me. Like, they're never like the real me that was in there. People always say, when you're drunk, you're You're yourself. You say things that you mean.
Yeah, I hate
That's
that.
not the truth. That is the opposite of truth, because the things that I would say when I was drunk, or the way that I would act when I was drunk, is not me, and I don't want to ever be thought of as that person.
I love when they
horrible.
I love when they tell you that that's how you feel deep down inside. That's how you really feel, and it's like, no, I was drunk and I said something stupid, but they're like, no, but the reason that you could do that and you could say that was because the alcohol brought it out of you, because it was always in there. It's like, yeah, but then what are you going to tell me that like somebody who like I always think of it this way. Like, we have control over our bodies, right? And we have temptations in everything, right? I see a hot woman. I know we're not going to run up and touch her, right? Because that's wrong. Well, I also know that I'm not supposed to say certain things to people because it's just outright rude. Well, now you're saying that alcohol is bringing out the real person in me that says these rude things.
Yep.
Well, no. Does that mean the temptations I had towards that woman, like me making sure that I don't go beyond the point that you're supposed to as a fucking civilized human? Like alcohol was going to make it okay for me to do that?
Yeah.
Like you can't say that same. Like, you can't say that. That's not me. That was the alcohol, and that was a different person. Like, I still have all kinds of temptations in my life, but I've learned to hone them in, understand them, and deal with them, and not let them get to a point where they're uncontrollable.
Yep.
So I fucking always hated that. Well, that's how you really feel, and that's the truth. And no, fuck you. That was the alcohol, and that was just me being a fucking stupid person, being intoxicated and allowing my emotions to run wild. We shouldn't allow our emotions to run wild.
No, absolutely not. If I let my emotions run wild, I'd be beating too many people up, you know? It's like even driving on the way here, some guy like cut off someone, and it's like, you want to beat him up, but you know what? I didn't have any alcohol in my system, so I didn't act like a fool, and you know, I'm glad that I'm that type of person,
Right.
because we'd be just beating people up or, you know, getting in trouble all the time, and that's what I don't want to be doing.
Right.
Like getting myself in trouble, doing things that I don't want to do, and that's what I did when I drank. It's like I never did the right thing. You know, I always like ended up doing the wrong thing when I did that. It's like, you know, there were some amazing, you know, we could go through some of our drinking stories that are amazing, but towards the end, those things started slimming. You know, the fun times we had on a boat, or those moments where you could go back and laugh about it. Like, it wasn't laughing anymore. It was sad.
Right. No, it always turns out to be sad. And that's the thing that, you know, I mean, I do have some, you know, stories, and most of everybody has heard all my stories. That's what this podcast was built for, was because the same thing that you get from helping somebody, maybe, not go down the road that you have been down, and keeping them sober. I've learned that in keeping myself off of alcohol, it helps to, one, have these type of conversations. And it also helps when you're helping others stay away from anything that they're on as well. I don't care if it's alcohol, heroin. It's all addiction to me.
Yeah, when we were in rehab, we were all together.
Right. Well,
which was awesome, because honestly, at my rehab, it was like, I would say 90% drugs, like 10% alcohol, which is, you know, crazy, but we're all kind of in the same boat. And I got like a lot out of everyone. I think that's like the coach in me, is like, when you're in those rehab situations, like learn from anyone. Like, I didn't care if the kid was 20 years old and he had been to 5 rehabs and stuff. He knows more than me about this subject. I was like picking that kid's brain. I don't care who it is. Like, I want to learn from anyone about this, you know? So that's how you got to walk into those situations, you know?
Yeah. See, when I was, I mean, I've been sent to AA 7 or 8 different times by the court. I had to do the MOP program. I had to do a driving program. And I've had to do a few other, anger management program, and a few other alcohol programs at the fucking court system. So every time I got sent to those things, it was always court related, right? I had to do it. I had to be there. I had to have my paper signed. You know, I had to pass those things in order to pass them in. I had to do counseling, and you have to pass in your paperwork, and your counselor has to sign off so you can friggin' stay out of jail and get your license back and do all these things. So I never really, like, I took AA seriously probably once out of all those times.
Yep.
Started speaking, got to the point where I was going to become a sponsor, and then fell back into drinking again.
Yep.
You know, something happened between me and the girl at the time, and I just started fucking hiding alcohol everywhere.
Yep. Oh,
it was everywhere. I mean, they were pulling alcohol out of areas that they didn't even know they fucking had. I was like, yeah, I just anywhere I was, and even when I was living here, when my first, you know, because I'm only 6.5 years off of alcohol.
Yep.
So even when I was living here, there was a point in time where she didn't even know how much I was drinking. And I was just, it was everywhere. It was everywhere. Every fucking spot I knew that I had a bottle of alcohol somewhere that I could fucking grab from, and I didn't have a fear of not having it. And it's just, it's kind of gross how if we put that much energy into doing positive things, how much further would I have gotten if it wasn't, you know, because it was the same with pot. I mean, I could make a bong or a pipe out of anything. It was always being very inventive, and you got very crafty, but it was like, if I took that energy and put it into something positive, probably could have gone so much further. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you put a lot of energy in doing negative things sometimes. It's just the addict in us, and that's what I like more today. Like when I was first going to AA and stuff, it was just alcohol. They didn't allow any narcotics in. You know, they had to go to narco. You know, they had to go to those. Is it Narcanon? I think. Like there's Al-Anon and Narcanon, I believe. But now they're all intermingling because we're all starting to understand that it's just addiction.
Yeah.
It's just addiction. And we're all kind of dealing with it the same.
Yeah.
Whether what drug or alcohol, it's all the same, because alcohol, I think most of us know that it's a drug, but the way that it's portrayed is almost like it's not a drug.
Yeah.
Because it's legal.
Yeah. I think for me, the addict in me was, you know, it was like, you know, I think like the tough part was I always, I don't know. I wanted to drink, and I thought it was the right thing to do, and I thought it was acceptable, and like the way I was acting, it was just never that way.
Yeah.
It was never gonna be acceptable the way I drank. You know, I always outdrank everyone from the second I started. You know.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
The drinker that outdrank.
So were you always the one like to first black out? And,
oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that was me too.
Carried home, and I think being smaller didn't help. But it's like, for me, it was probably a better thing. It was like I got drunker than everyone quicker. I got to where I wanted, but it was always gonna end up there at some point.
Yeah.
You know? I think in the classes when what like kind of like swayed me to really take a step in the right direction was doing the steps. I mean, when you get to that fourth step and you learn about yourself and you're writing about the people that wronged you or that you think wronged you. And I actually did the whole step wrong because at first I was just writing people down and they're like, well, what did this guy do to you? How'd they wrong you? And I couldn't come up with something.
Oh, shit.
I was like, I just don't like this motherfucker for no reason. I was like,
it's not people you don't like. It's people that hurt you.
You're not supposed to just not like them. I'm like, wait, okay, I got to go back and do this. So I remember going like the next day to class and they were just like, oh, so how'd you get in that step? I'm like, well, I had to restart. I'm like, but at least I learned about myself. I learned that I'm a pretty like superficial person, and like I was holding people at like crazy high standards to be my friend, but yet I didn't hold myself at a high standard. I could treat anyone the way I wanted, but they couldn't treat me anything. Like no one could ever talk to me a certain way, or I'd kick their ass, or I'd be like this, and it's just not the way I am now, and not the way I really am without alcohol in me. I think that's like been the huge change. But it's like I learned so much about myself writing that step, and just like seeing all the things that did upset me, because there were some valid things, some things that happened between me and my parents, or me and my sister, or some of my friends even, you know, that like definitely were tough to handle. But for the most part, it was just, you know, just sacrificing myself almost. You know? So it was just me having crazy high standards for everyone that was around me. And it was like, I think it was, I just didn't want to be hurt. So I always like made things so impossible to be close to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's understandable. So going off of the step situation, what was it? What was it like when you had to start making amends?
So I'm not fully to that part. So I've started the amends. So
You've started it?
Yeah. So
that's a tough one.
I think this is like I think amends,
one.
Honestly, is like a lifelong thing.
Oh, it definitely is. I'm still doing it today. 6.5 years later,
yeah.
I'm still doing it. The one thing that has been the hardest for me, and I've had to really like understand that this is just the way it goes, and I have no control over this because my problem is that I'm a control freak. And being an addict, you're always in control. You try to always maintain control. And when you're making amends, you have no control. And these people people are allowed to deny you. And that for me was really hard to understand. And you have to accept it. And in accepting it, you're almost having to accept that you were wrong. Yeah. You were wrong, and that's really hard to do. Really hard. So you're working on that right now?
Yeah, I'm slowly working through. I've gotten to some. There are some that I want to get to. There are a few family members that I'd like to get to. Haven't, had to have a great conversation with my sister. I think that's like the big one that I want next. I think we have a lot in common. We grew up together. We have so much in common. Like with our craziness, we're both kind of a little intense, and I think that's what like set us apart. I think we can work on some things that would be awesome because her kids wrestle and we were close for so long. So I think mending some of these will be awesome, but it's definitely a challenge. It's scary,
isn't it?
Scary to go out there and
because you're making yourself vulnerable.
Yep.
And you're admitting you were wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what's fucking hard because you don't feel like you were wrong at that time. But when you look
now
back at it, you're like, fuck, I was so wrong.
Yeah.
I was so wrong.
And you might look at stuff as almost like a weighing scale, and that's how you like did it. You're like, well, but they did this to me, but it's like, it's not about that. It's
it's
clearing your side. If your side shoots the ceiling because they did a ton to you, but you clear your side, and honestly, it makes you feel a lot better. Like, and I did in a few situations where like they wronged me way more than I ever wronged them, and I could hold it over them for the rest of their lives, but I just wouldn't feel right doing that, especially now. And it's
right.
So it's, a couple that I got through were like, it would have been nice if they realized what they did wrong, but I'm not looking for that.
That's
I honestly would rather have it be another time even. Don't even tell me about it right now, but but it's I like it. I like, getting through some of those moments as challenging as they are. Even if it goes wrong, it's kind of gone right because you did something, even if it goes bad, it's like, but at least I did my part and they know. And I know a few people that like tried to reach out to someone, they won't let them or whatever. And somehow or some way you end up like intermingling somehow in this life because it's such a small world. Like they end up having to be in your life somehow. And then, I know someone that went through the steps and the person wouldn't talk to him. And then through coaching and stuff, her, like a nephew wrestles and then they ended up talking, and it ended up working its way out. But it's like, that's how it works. It's like, you don't always find it exactly how you wanted. You might find it like 5 years later, or 6 years later, but usually you can at least talk it out, but the effort is at least there too.
Yeah. And that's what I've noticed too, is that even if I've gotten to speak to certain people over the last 6.5 years, it's like some of them deny, some of them don't want to hear it because you just wronged them so badly. Some of them are like, okay, well, I guess. And some people are like, man, thank you so much because I really needed to hear that from you because I was writing you off. But then you think about the people that you're angry at and you have to let go of that anger because that anger, just like lying, for me, I try not to lie about anything because lying leads back to drinking. Mm-hmm. Holding on to anger leads back to drinking because it's all sitting in here and it festers and then that's the release.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, so I can't do this, I can't do that, and if they don't accept me, I have to accept that. And it's like, You got to move on from it. And then, and like right now, like I was in the middle of, reconnecting with my aunt and uncle, which, I completely fucked everything up with them when I was a kid and stuff like that. And my drinking did not help at all. People in my family were like, no, you know what I mean? And it was like I was trying to rebuild, and then my uncle passed. And that was that was really difficult for me to accept, because I was getting close to finally sitting down, and then it was like he was gone. And I was like, shit, I didn't know. And then my mom was like, no, we knew he was sick. We didn't know he was that sick. Yep. And I was like, fuck, you know what I mean? And it was like, so you have, and then you have to accept that right there, that's gone. There's nothing you can do. Unfortunately, you're kind of stuck with those feelings now. Yep. So there's so many different levels to this that it's a never ending situation. You know what I mean? It's always going to be here. You're always going to be dealing with it. But I have noticed over the last, 6 years that like it's gotten a lot easier to manage. And with it being easier to manage, you just mentioned how you are less depressed. Yeah. And I noticed the same thing when I got off of alcohol. All of a sudden, I didn't need depression medication. I didn't need antipsychotics. I didn't need mood stabilizers. And I was like, well, this is weird. The pills are making me feel funny now. Why is this? And then all of a sudden, I'm like getting rid of the pills, and now there is none. Yep, there is none. And I understand that like there's still anxiety in life, but I think we're supposed to be a little anxious here and there.
Yeah, I think it's our defense mechanism.
Right?
If you don't have a little bit of anxiety, then you're kind of crazy. You have to have a little, like, my wife's not an addict, and she has anxiety. I think that's like, those are natural things to have in life, and we're supposed to have those. It's that's natural for us. You're supposed to be nervous of like a bear behind you. Like you should have some anxiety. If you don't, then like you're gonna get hurt pretty quickly. So I think like some of those things are good, but no, it was weighing down, I think, as an addict on us so much. And to think about like those moments the first day I'm in rehab to only 10 months later, how I feel is like kind of crazy. And it's like, that has been the biggest change. The mental aspect of all this is just crazy. I'm coming up on 40, so I'm slowing down wrestling wise, and so I'm slipping it. But mentally, oh my God, I could wrestle for an eternity. Yeah. It's just like you just feel so much better, and like that's how I look at it.
And that's how I was feeling at 10 months. I was going back in. I was talking to my therapist. We were getting me off pills. We were doing. It finally happened for me, because whenever I gave up alcohol, it was always for the government. It was for this. It was so I could get my license back. It was for that. It always had a simple reason, but I was just doing it for everybody else. It wasn't something I was doing for myself. And when I finally gave it up for myself, 10 months in, I felt like that. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? I don't need pills. I don't need this. Why am I so active? Why do I feel so much better? And it's, because you're not drowning yourself in a fucking depressant, stupid. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we just don't get it. It's a depressant. It's a drug, and it ruins tons of lives. And unfortunately, we don't notice it because it's legal and it's so easy to get your hands on. And I personally think all drugs should be legal anyways, just to try and beat the fentanyl side of things and maybe get some regulations on shit so a lot more people stop dying. Yep. But it's one of those things where it's a learning curve, and it's so helpful to me to have these conversations with people that are coming up. You know what I mean? It's like it feels so good, because it's the same. I'm talking to somebody who feels the same way I do, and all of a sudden I go, I feel so much better now. It is these conversations and just talking about this. More and more people need to understand that being on antidepressants and still staying on a depressant is just a fucking. You're falling down a well, and you're gonna eventually hit the fucking bottom, and it's not gonna be good.
I think the part as you say it, it's like being around, like you get to have these conversations, and it helps you. It's like that's what rehab was so important.
Mm.
It was, I was finally around people that understood me.
Yeah.
That had those same crazy thoughts that I never told anyone, those same crazy desire to drink. It's like, that's when I knew I was like in the right place. It's like, I'm around just like normal, crazy people like myself that are just like, man, we need to get off this. And you kind of vibe towards the people that kind of go towards yours. I was in a house of, 20 plus and 20 plus, and you vibe towards the people that end up, some of the alcoholics or the older people are, but I kind of like, I'm a kid at heart too, so I kind of vibe with everyone, like playing Fortnite and playing video games with this crew, but then I'm hanging out with the older crew at night, writing my steps, so you kind of like bounce around and get to like know everyone, but that we all have one common goal, and it's getting off it. But like you said, it's like, it had to be my choice. Like,
Yes.
I went through therapist after therapist and AA and, same thing as you, court-appointed stuff. And it just never worked. It never, because it was never the time. And I feel like those things are putting Band-Aid on like an axe wound.
Pretty much.
They're just, it might help that person that need to be scared straight, but for me, that was never going to happen.
Oh,
the
no.
alcohol was way too important to be scared straight.
Yep.
It was, I had to decide this life I was living was not the one I wanted anymore. And I couldn't even see that until my friend talked to me into going to that rehab that day.
Yes.
And the moment I saw the light and I saw 4 days of sobriety, which I'd seen a million times.
Right?
I had been sober for 4 days. How many times? Like 1,000 in the last, 20 years. But something that day and that the things that were happening there and the people talking to me, it just all was at the right time. And I'm a hard worker, so like, you get me in a moment where I get to like work for something, like, oh, you gotta write this many hours. It's like, I'll write way more than that. Like, everything was like always a challenge for me, which I loved with wrestling. So for this, it was another challenge, like, so the things that I had that helped mold me into a good wrestler, I started applying them for this, and it worked for me. And I remember my insurance cut out halfway through rehab, so there was like this crazy issue. So all those things that are weighing on your mind, that those were good things that were happening to me, because I'm dealing with more pressure and things that make me anxious, and I don't have the alcohol to deal with it. So I have to deal with it like a normal adult.
Yep.
Instead of drink and deal with it the next day like I always would do. It's like, oh, I got to do this. I'll just drink on Sunday. I'll deal with that on Monday. And then Monday would come around. Well, I got to work today. Like, I don't have time. It gets nighttime. I'm like, I'm drinking. I'll deal with it tomorrow. It was always the next day. So it was always,
it's an easy
pushing
thing to
it
do
off.
then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Oh my God. It's just, we're all going, like, it's just, it's the same. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so crazy, but I'm glad you are 10 months in. So you don't have a license right now, huh?
Nope, no license. I mean, made that mistake, but live and learn. And
I got two of them. So.
Yeah, and if that's what's gonna get me sober, then I will take, as long as I'm, not doing something that's gonna put me in jail forever. Like, I'm willing to make some mistakes to now be where I am. And I think like people look at me in a different way, as like, not that like I think people ever looked at me like I was perfect, but like I make mistakes just like everyone else.
Yes, we all make mistakes.
I've fucked up. I've been an asshole to people. I've been a jerk to my loved ones that like I shouldn't be at that time. It's like, so I think just being vulnerable, and like I think that's why my gym's grown even more. It's exploded because I admitted, like, after 6 months, I finally was like, and it was funny when I made my post, I was so nervous to like post it on social media that like, I told my close friends and people in the gym that, some of the wrestlers that were close to me, some of the studs, like, I was like, hey, I'm going away. They knew why. We kind of explained to them, but it was like, you got to hold the fort. And they all did. They, like, my studs, like, were not like running practice, but they were keeping the ship together while I was gone.
Oh, I see.
So it was awesome. A couple of kids I coached since they were in second grade. They're seniors now, going to Ivy League schools and just crushing life. And it's like, they were there for me during those moments. And our kids I'll never forget because that's like a molding moment that'll be there forever.
Yeah, that's like yeah. I got a really good friend that just fucking nagged the fuck out of me for, let's see. I started drinking when I was fucking 14, and I didn't stop until I was 37.
Yep.
And he nagged me probably from the time I was fucking 20 all the way until I was 37.
Yep.
So he was always up my ass about this fucking drinking thing. And he was one of the ones that I pushed away and was like, okay, you don't want me to drink. I'm going to do that. But I didn't have a lot of discipline in my life, right? I did the bare minimum. I skated by. I did whatever I could, however I wanted to do it. As long as I got it done, I didn't give a shit. But it's like you had so much discipline in your life that like when I finally joined Jiu-Jitsu, I was still drinking. I was still smoking cigarettes at the time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that became my discipline. Like I actually had to discipline myself to get to class, to do things. And it was like, okay, things are changing. All of a sudden I'm like giving up cigarettes and I'm giving up this because I wanted to be more on the mats. I'm gonna do that a couple more times, I think. And I wanted to be more on the mats, and I wanted to do these things. And I was like, wow, okay, so I get this out of my way. It makes it easier to do this. And like as I progressed, I got about 3 years in. I was like, and then that happened when I was Ubering, but I was still doing jiu-jitsu, and it was like all of a sudden the light clicked.
Yep.
And I went, shit. I can't lose any of this because then I won't be able to do this, and this, and I'm going to lose my house and it's going to be a nightmare. And it took having discipline in my life to finally make me realize that I had a life worth living.
Yep.
And I didn't have to keep throwing it down the fucking toilet every time just because I hated myself.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it was like, so for me, when I found discipline, I found it was like an eye-opening moment. Because then I finally realized what discipline was. I was never a disciplined person. Like I just talked to a friend. I was out there grocery shopping this morning, and my friend that I've known for years, it just caught me off guard, and I hadn't seen him in like 2 or 3 years, and he was like, he was telling me how he loves the amount of discipline that I have now, and how I keep pushing through things, and I'm just doing. And no one's ever talked to me like that.
That's awesome.
No one is like, I wasn't like a shitbag, but I also wasn't the person anybody's really talking highly about.
Yep.
And now with everything that's happened, it's such a shift for me where you had discipline in your life. You had people looking up to you, and now you've taken this turn, and now people are seeing you as more of that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you might have you were looked at as that, but I was never. I was never that person. And now to be looked at as that type of person, I go, huh? It gets confusing for me, and I'm like, now I'm like afraid. I'm like, you know what I mean? I don't want to let you down, but I'm not exactly, you know what I mean? But I try really hard. I do things, and when I'm doing something, I'm putting 110% into it. Unless I'm in class, then I'm probably putting 60% in because I'm usually hurt most of the time. But that's just because I'm fucking over 40, and that's what happens to you.
Oh, slow down.
You slow down, you get fucking hurt. I wake up and I'm like, how did my knee get hurt? I just went to bed last night. You know what I mean? So shit like that
and
fucking happens.
we can't blame it on the booze now.
No, we can't. I can't blame it on any of that shit. So, but it's really nice. And then I always want to encourage everybody to just keep going, because this is what is going to keep happening.
Yeah.
To you, to me, to everybody that gets rid of the addiction that's dragging you down, that's ruining your life. Once you get it out of your life, things do get better.
Yeah, and there are plenty of people that don't need to stop drinking. Like, I have tons of friends that drink perfectly fine. They are responsible. I'm just not that guy.
Right.
And I don't expect my friends to ever stop.
Did you ever
I went to my buddy's wedding the day after rehab. I got out of rehab. He was getting married. It was my best friend. And I was like, I'm not missing this. I know that it was tough, and it was tough to not drink, and that was a good challenge. And a lot of people told me I shouldn't go, but I'm like, there's no chance I'm not going, even if I go for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
okay. Nothing. But I went I would say most of the time. I stayed through all the dancing, and I just got out before it got too crazy. But, you know, I went and was a part of it. I think that that's important because we got to realize that there are people that are first not going to drink. They're just going to keep drinking that are alcoholics.
Yep.
And then there are people that can normally drink. And I hold nothing against anyone. It's like,
Okay.
if it's not getting in your way and it's not ruining your life and you're not affecting anyone that hurts me, like, that's where it doesn't bother me. But it's like when you're starting to hurt people then I like look at you like, hey, you got to stop this thing. Like it can get better, but like
Right.
most of you you do yours, I'll do mine. And
See,
I won't judge you because I know I've been there and been in those moments. I don't want to hold anyone like, oh, you can't stop drinking, so I'm better than you now.
Right.
I would never want to be that person again because I did that before when I was drinking. So it's like I try to look at them like, hey, it's tough for you to not drink.
Shit.
I get it.
Yeah.
But if you're ever ready, I'm here. And if you ever don't get ready, that's okay too. You know,
Dude,
you got to live your life.
that's so funny because 10 months in, I was like, alcohol should be illegal. I don't know why people are drinking. It's fucking poison. My friend looked at me and he goes, dude, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, why should the people that are capable of drinking not be allowed to drink? And I went,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Some people can do this responsibly.
Yeah. And I was like, shit. But it took me a long time to finally go to a wedding. It took a long time before, like, I even went down the alcohol aisle in the supermarket. You know, with my wife drinking, there was the first year, she wasn't hiding it, but she wasn't, it wasn't
Shoving
like,
it in your face.
Yeah. She was, it was like when I do a 5-day water fast and I'd be home on a Wednesday and she want to eat lunch. She would go out and eat lunch and come back.
Yeah.
She wouldn't eat in front of me while I was fasting.
Yeah.
So she would do the kind of the same thing with the alcohol.
Yep.
But I knew it was in the cabinets. I mean, I have a nip sitting in my bedroom right now that's been sitting there for 6.5 years.
I think I could do it now, but that is definitely a challenge.
Well, my fear was I feel the urge to go to the store and buy something.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if I buy it and I have it, well, then it's here. You can ruin this any fucking time you want to. Are you going to ruin it? I didn't throw away my 5-day water fast. I'm not throwing this away. So it's like little things like that I played with. You know what I mean? Because I know myself. If I don't have anything, I'll have the urge to go out and buy something. If I just have it and it's here, I know that I can ruin things at any moment. But the discipline to not ruin it is what's important to me. Yeah. So I just stick with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like all of these things are tools that I have used because being sent by the government to do all the other things ruin those things for me.
Yep.
So that stuff doesn't really work for me. And I can't get into the God side of anything. Yep. I just can't. I know that it doesn't have to be God. It just has to be a higher power. But I don't know if I don't know for me personally what a higher power is.
Yeah, see, I don't know that either. And I went into it and they explained it very well of like how if you don't believe in God that it is okay. Mm-hmm. And I think that I looked at it like this. There's something that can get me to stop doing something that has affected me so much. I'll believe in anything for like, you know what I mean? For a time being, it's like, I just wanted anything at this point, but it's like, do I believe in a God? I don't know.
Yeah.
I ain't going to try to figure it out. I'm just Matt Smith. I'm not no scientist. I'm not like, that is not in my job description. So I'm just going to stick with like, hey, this helped me get sober that day. Do I pray to God ever? No, I don't. I don't do the daily prayers. I don't do that type of stuff. That's just not me, and it never was. And they never held that against me. They were always patting me on the back for all the hard work I was doing and the parts that I could. But the parts that I can't, you can't. And it's like, you don't have to believe in God, I think, to do the steps. I think I kind of went through those first 3 steps. I thought it was good to hear the certain things, and I thought they explained it in a great way. But I kind of was just looking to get through those steps to get to the part where I can learn about myself. Yeah. And once I got to that 4th step, that was huge. But the God stuff, it didn't do it for me. Never had any like eye-opening things when I said it or when, during those moments. But there were definitely God-shot moments throughout the process that were like kind of unexplainable. But You know, I ain't going to try to explain that. You know, I ain't going to try to figure it out. It's just too much. I just stick with the, it is what it is.
I have a thing with religion. It's just, it's too culty for me. Yep. I don't care which one you believe in or whatever. It's just, I feel like they're almost all the same.
Yeah.
They're all the same, and people have died not believing and people have died for believing, and it's like I can't do that. Yeah. But dude, I'm so happy that you have made it 10 months in. Yeah. You definitely have a friend to call from here on out. Absolutely. Anytime you need to talk. But all right, everybody, it's time for the beach. It's time for summer. It's time for sun. You can get brand new clothing at slowdownclothing.bigcartel.com today. Shirts like this long sleeve, hats like this with that crazy, beautiful embroidering. This stuff is amazing. And you have to go to slowdownclothing.bigcartel.com to get it. All right, so go there and check out their entire selection because they're not just known for their shirts. That's right. They've also got kids' tees and socks. Look at these socks. These are amazing, and they look great with dress pants. So if you got to wear dress pants for work and you want to add a little bit of color and have some fun with it, get some of these socks. They are so comfy and they look great. And it's also time for the beach. So get yourself some of these awesome, beautiful, comfy swim trunks for going swimming this year, for going to the beach, for doing whatever you want to do. Maybe you just want to play in the sprinkler in the yard with your kids. They're great for that too. They're great swim trunks. And don't forget, they have skateboards, they have pins, they have so much to offer. You can get coloring books for the kids. And just remember, before you check out, put in promo code TOPHER and get an extra 10% off your entire purchase. That's right, you get to save some extra money this year, and who doesn't want to save money when they're making purchases? So go to slowdownclothing.bigcartel.com, get shirts like this, like the other ones I was wearing, kids clothing, the skateboards, women's leggings, and go get your beach towels and swimwear. All right, use promo code TOPHER before you check out and let TWT save you some money today. For fun, would you have gotten on Ocean Gate to go see the fucking Titanic? Do you hear about this shit? You've been keeping up with this fucking damn thing?
There's no way I would do that. First, I am not
I just want to have some fun.
Fan of small spaces.
Me neither.
So as a kid, I remember one time I hid in this thing and it locked on me.
Yeah.
It was like this hole in the ground with like this contraption in the trailer park you find anywhere to hide good. And I locked myself in there. We couldn't get me out for like an hour. Ooh. My parents had to break it. So it was one of those things, like, I'm not like a fan of small things. So being like in a small thing like that, no chance. And then you're a billionaire, like, I don't know, man. There's a lot of cool things on Earth.
They're just fucking bored.
I guess maybe they've done everything when you're that rich.
They're just bored at this point, right? I mean, they have to be. You got to be bored. What are you doing? What are you doing? You have billions of dollars, and you're getting in a fucking teeny tiny little like fucking bus. And the whole thing that threw me off, and my friend was like, no, it's pretty normal for some major contraption to have a small like PlayStation remote. Yeah, let's just say. Was kinda crazy. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. If I'm paying you $250,000, I don't want to see you pull out a PlayStation remote to show me how this thing's gonna fucking work. Like I don't understand any of it. And it was like, I heard that the fucking son didn't even want to go.
Oh.
I heard the son contacted the mother and was like, I don't want to do this, but it was a Father's Day thing. So he was like, so he almost felt obligated to go because his dad wanted to do it, but he was like, all right, it's Father's Day. I'm going to go for him, but Mom, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and it was like, somebody was like, how do you live with that guilt? And I go, kid doesn't have any guilt. What are you talking about? They're both dead. Yeah. I was like, the mom's fucking like bummed out because she's like, man, I wish I had just told him he could stay at home.
Yeah.
But like, this whole thing has been crazy. And then like we spent all that time searching for them, and an hour and 47 minutes in, they were dead.
Yeah, and the Navy like already knew. I heard.
I
don't know. I kind of read small little things.
Supposedly, I read the articles because I was really digging into this because I wanted to know if they fucking imploded. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, an implosion like that. I mean, it's over in a second. Oh. And me and Tyler were talking about it. And he's like, I was like, yeah, what do you think? Like they saw a little crack, and then all of a sudden it's like. And he's like, no. I think they were sitting there, and all of a sudden you hear the, and it just fucking boom, and it was over. So like they probably were like, oh shit, what's that? And it dove over.
I would assume it happened pretty quick because like any imperfection when you're that low has gotta just instantly crunch.
6,000 psi all around you.
It's crazy.
Except for coming from the ocean floor, but they were surrounded.
That Facebook picture of the depth, where they show like a whale goes this low, and it's like they're weighed.
Yeah.
It's like, holy.
Yeah. So, and that thing wasn't really meant to go that low, but they already did. They already did this once with that same ship, and they didn't retest it to make sure that it wasn't damaged from the first one. Yeah. And I heard that the first one, one of the guys that were on it said it was a fucking kamikaze mission. They were like, this is insane. Like we almost died that time. We were lucky to be alive. And I'm like, why would you, and the way it was made and everything else, and then you find out that, the CEO was like, oh no, this thing is going to be fine, and we didn't need to have it regulated and this and that. But I have to say that a lot of the memes coming out for this are absolutely hilarious. Hold on, let me pull them up. But this has been wild. When I read how deep they went. Oh, nobody needs to listen. Oh. What is happening?
Phone's going crazy. Technology for you.
Oh my God, this is so annoying. I do not know where that's coming from, and I don't have anything open. All right, we'll have to edit that part out. Anyways, there we go, and there we go. All right. Yeah, but some of the memes that I got, there it goes again. It's popping up. Oh, this is fantastic. I just wanted to, I wanted to share this with you.
No more porn on the phone.
I find these, because I found these to be absolutely hilarious. So I saved them for this, this quick thing here. But I don't know if you've rolled with Michael Firth. In our class,
I've seen him.
He's a big dude,
yeah.
Big dude. But he's breaking news: lost sub promoted to blue belt just before disappearing.
That's a good one.
That's fucking hilarious. And then like, what was it? Helicopter tours of volcanoes, 250 grand. Book yours now. And the fucking, it's, I can put it up on the screen. I'll add it in, but it's one of those little toy helicopters. And then, the people on the missing Titanic submarine when they wake up tomorrow. So they're looking at everybody on the Titanic. It's just, I mean, the memes coming out of this, touring the wreck of the Titanic, 250 grand, joining the wreck of the Titanic forever. Priceless. I mean, what the fuck were you people thinking?
How about the stepson, too? You see him? He's just living the dream now. Everyone knows who he is. He's just, like, tweeting out, like, trying to hit on girls. And like,
oh, yeah. I mean,
you just lost your family.
Yeah, but he's like, oh, no, but I just got so much clout. Yeah. I got so much now.
So
and it's
cool.
But the Navy thing, real quick, before we get going, is the fact that what they did is they thought they heard something, but they weren't looking for it. So because they thought that they were looking for live people, they let the search go on. And what I read is they went back after the time ran out for oxygen and they realized now we're looking for dead people.
Yeah.
That's when they decided to go back through and listen to the secret audio recording equipment that we have buried at the bottom of the ocean. Mind you, it's all secret equipment because we got, people that want to invade and subs and stuff like that. So we have secret audio recording equipment at the bottom of the ocean all over the place. And so they go back and listen to it, and they're like, yeah, 1 hour and 45 minutes in, at 1:47, we heard an implosion noise. And I was like, oh, so they were dead like 2 minutes after they lost contact.
Yep.
They lost contact, and it was gone. And it was like, a lot of people are like, oh, what's an implosion? And it's like, well, take a tin can and go inside of it and then squeeze it. That's an implosion. It sinks in, but a lot of people were confused on the explosion part, and it's like, well, they have a CO2 capturing tank, they have multiple oxygen tanks, so when it imploded, it exploded because of the tanks. So it's just been, I just was so like attached to this because I was just like, my God, man, you have so much money, you're this fucking bored that you want to go 13,000 feet under the ocean to go see a ship that they literally 3.5 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, by the time this comes out, 5 weeks ago, had 161 terabytes of data from a ship that went down there and scanned the whole thing. So you could literally look at the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean like it had no water.
That's crazy.
I mean, so clear that on the propeller, you could see partial serial numbers. But I need to go down there and see it from a dark, like, all you're seeing is through the window.
Yeah, you're not going to see
You're not seeing anything else. The rest of it's pitch black.
Yeah.
It's dark down there. What the fuck are you doing? So the whole thing blew my mind, and I find it almost entertaining, these rich people who are, like, just so bored that they have to do this. Now, I know I said we were getting going. What is your opinion on Elon Musk taking on Mark Zuckerberg in a fight?
It's one of those things like Elon Musk, he's a bigger guy. He's a lot bigger than him, but I think Zuckerberg trains. He does jiu-jitsu.
He's still a white belt.
Yeah, but like,
he might have paid for his blue belt by now.
Him at a white belt, he's probably got some pretty good coaches. I mean, it would be fun to see where they'd be because, you know, you're going to like set it up. Musk is going to start training, so I'd like to see like what they got, but
supposedly Elon is accepted. That's one of the things that Mike sent me yesterday. He said he accepted. And I'm like, I have two different opinions on this. One, I still can't stand Zuckerberg, and I hate the fact that everybody keeps praising this motherfucker because now he's in the Jiu-Jitsu MMA world, and all of a sudden he's different. No, he's still an asshole who stole a company from somebody and portrayed it as his own, and he still was using this in the beginning to talk to girls because he doesn't know how to. Yeah. So he's still a piece of shit. But now all of a sudden we're supposed to give him praise because he's on the mats with everybody else. I still think of him as a big piece of shit personally. But like Tyler suggested, him against Elon would be more old school MMA. But I don't think UFC should have a part of it. But if they want to do it as a charity to raise money for something that's positive, then I'm for it. But I don't want the UFC to make money off of it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
They will in some aspect because, like, why would they go out of their way to do it? You know,
right.
Like, so maybe it's for the publicity. I think it would be exciting for, like, you know, do you want to...
So you're like, take my money.
Let's go. Because then I think it will start, like, Elon Musk, like, who's next? Like, you know, like, who are we going to get, like, next to start fighting?
And he's too busy with Neuralink and shooting off rockets and building fucking cars and shit and ruining conversations like this because soon we're going to have chips in our fucking head that we don't even... like, I just watched a Black Mirror episode and then they have a little dial, and it was like their eyeballs have everything our cell phone. And I was like, oh my God, isn't this crazy? I've been talking about how one day I think we're going to be like, remember when we used to carry around our cell phones? That was so fucking stupid, huh? I'm so glad, you know, they had a little button or something. They could fucking block you.
Right?
Dude, it was wild. What a weird episode.
Yeah,
but
then you'll be like, they'll shut off your eyesight, and then
Yeah.
the cops will come get you. It's like,
well, not. I mean, it's years old. This is fucking season 2. So if you haven't seen it, I don't give a shit.
Haven't.
But not you. I'm talking to the audience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If anybody out there, this is a spoiler for sure. But like when one of the guys he was helping younger people talk and communicate and find relationships, right?
Yeah.
But they were like close to 16, 17, so they were still kind of minors. So he ends up doing something for them, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna set you free. We're gonna set you free. But the stipulations, you still are blocked. And he was like, what, by who? And they were like, oh, by everybody, because you're basically a pedophile. And not only, like, when you block somebody, they were gray. He walks out into the crowd. All he sees is gray. You can't hear anybody. It's all muffled. It's very intense. Everybody that's looking at him, he's red.
Oh, wow.
He's red. And I went, oh shit. And then all of a sudden, he basically becomes a target. Yep. Because now everybody can see that he is a pedophile. Yep. And I was like, holy fuck, imagine that shit. Imagine that shit today. Yeah.
Because all the people you like meet, and then I remember, Googling someone one time, and it was like, when the things came up, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, holy, like, I would have never pictured that.
Oh,
so
you're talking about the app where you can see them in your
like,
area?
You end up, like, knowing, and it's like crazy. It's like, whoa. Like, to think like someone got in trouble that close to me, or there were some people I knew.
You ever done it in a school district?
Oh my god!
You're like, what the fuck, dude? Really?
Right?
You're not supposed to be anywhere near these people. Like, what are you doing here? Like, it's so fucking crazy. But so with Elon and Mark, you're saying take my money. Take my money. I watch that.
I would definitely watch
You watch it. I
100%.
think I'm gonna have to say take my money too.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to,
because it was sort of. I mean, an awesome.
Yeah.
Like everyone else, like with the Jake Paul and all those guys, like it's starting it already.
Well,
like,
Jiu-Jitsu,
like they've been getting it going. And I honestly think like you're gonna see some more famous people like jumping on. Because think about like if Brad Pitt, from Fight Club, Brad Pitt, back in the day, he fights someone else. It's like, we start to get these, Brad Pitt versus Gladiator, see who wins, have some famous people. They could make quick paychecks like that just doing these fights, so.
But if you're a billionaire fighting a billionaire, let's do a charity and let's make it worth it.
Yeah.
Right? You want to give that money to somebody else. You guys don't fucking need it. But go ahead and go beat yourselves up in there. And I'm telling you right now, the way I always go,
Musk will win.
You think? Because I hate Zuck, but I'm gonna vote for him because jiu-jitsu's made for the smaller person.
But he's
and I want the smaller person.
How much could Elon learn from now till the fight? Like, unless they fight tomorrow, he's gonna start training. So, like, that's what I feel.
Is he though? Because he overpromises and underdelivers.
It matters if he signs up for it. He's got to train.
You hope so.
I think if he signs on board to do it, I think that's after.
Okay, all right.
Trains.
That's fine.
I mean, they act like they have no.
But I'm always voting for the smaller person. There was a video that
but you're voting for a smaller person. But is that guy really a tough guy? Like,
I don't know.
He's kind of a smaller dork.
Is Elon tough?
He's I guess it's challenging.
Right?
Yeah.
You think he works out? You think he does anything? I don't. I think he works
barrel
himself to
chest,
death. Yeah, I know. But he's working 24 hours a day, fucking never nonstop.
Like.
So it's like I don't know. I don't know how that would go.
But he probably has a 36-hour day somehow.
Probably. I'm just like I don't know. I don't know if he would be able to train and do it and pull it off. And
but Zuck's got to be the same way, right?
I mean, he's out there. He's actually training. He's actually doing things. So
he's finding time. I
think he got a stripe or two on his white belt, so he's doing something. I mean, I'm hoping, I'm always hoping that
he's not training.
I have no fucking idea, dude. I've seen some videos. They look like garbage. Yeah. They look like a white belt trying, and I get that. It's fine. We've all been there. You got to start there anyways. Every black belt is a white belt at the beginning. So we all start from the same fucking ground up, but I have a hate towards him because of who he is. But I'm like, man, I don't know if Musk could fucking fit in all the training, so he might have a chance because he'll be ahead of him no matter what. These people can't just give you money for a belt, because anybody who would give a belt for money is not going to make it in this world, because we're all going to find out you did it. And then we're just going to, no, this is bullshit. People pay you for a fucking belt. You're done. It's over for you. You know what I mean? That shit don't go, that almost unhideable today, you know, like everything else.
Which is weird, because you think about it, like, what a business model. You got people that like, I don't have to do much and I can accomplish something. I would say I'm a blue belt and just go to this guy's gym for like a month or so.
But that's like being fat and taking a pill and expecting to lose weight. You know, well, Ozempic's working pretty good for people.
Easy to like. You want to do things the easy way. We're America.
Everybody wants to do everything the easy way. I think across the world. Yeah. I think it's it's mostly an American thing for sure, but I think it's across the world now. You know, everybody wants an easy out. This has made life so different today. Everything's accessible and it's quick and it's always at your fingertips. You know what I mean? So, I want to be able to gain weight real quick. Why is it I've been pushing weights for a year and I haven't done shit and nothing seems to be moving? And it's like, or I'm overweight and I'm having trouble getting past this number. And that's when my brain goes, stop looking at the number. Stop looking at that number, because the number is not what's important. You know, the BMI that we all go by in the medical industry is wrong. You know, it says that Joe Rogan's fucking obese. No, we need to readjust everything, because you can be a specific height and you can be a healthy weight and you can be a certain build and you're not obese. This old method is stupid, but if you're looking for instant gratification, you're not going to find it on the mats. You're not going to find it in dieting, and you're not going to find it in working out. You're not going to find instant gratification in any of those areas. That is going to be work, discipline, and it's going to be hard. Yep. And you got to get the work in there in order to make it happen. Yeah, Matt, dude, thank you so much for coming on. This is awesome, brother. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. With that being said, I hope you enjoy your Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope everybody had a great 4th of July, and I will talk to you later.